Okay, cool. So, I mean, we were chatting earlier about a topic.
About failure topic. It's actually quite interesting that you suggest that because at the beginning of the year, like New Year's resolutions, I don't really believe in New Year's resolutions because I think they fail. But I do believe every year to sit down and reflect on the year and look at like what I've achieved and what I want to achieve in the following year. And my intro blog post was, you will learn more from being rock bottom than you will ever learn from being at the top. So, and last year, at the beginning of the year, I went back to the States after having a lovely wedding with my brother, getting married, and spending 3 weeks with my family. And then a week after I arrived in the States, I totaled my brand new car. I mean, I just got a brand new car. It wasn't fully insured yet, so I literally lost everything. And my running I was still kind of injured. I wasn't able to run. And I remember that afternoon so well. I went out for a run, my first run on the grass, and it was just a 5K run, just kind of testing how I felt. I think I pushed it a bit too much because it was just under 20 minutes. After being out for like 2 months. But that evening I was in that car crash and totally, I rolled. I flipped, my car flipped, and everybody that saw it, and it came to me and they were like, "Why aren't you dead?" And I thought like, that kind of like shook my whole world. Suddenly everything kind of like fell apart and my performance was suffering so much. I was training probably some of the lowest volumes and intensity I have in my whole career, but I've never been more overtrained because mentally I couldn't cope with that. And that actually led to me coming home. But that whole season in America I was rock bottom. I was at a point where I was ready to leave my running career. And coming back, I won my first race, and the success continued in the next few months, never placing worse than second place in any of the events I competed in. But the valuable experience and the ability to overcome that hardship that happened in the States is, I think, what led to my success, because I was so hungry to actually achieve something again and not be like,
So I'll take two things away from that. I mean, number one is that the mental stress is significant enough to play a physical role. So when you're mentally crushed, it plays a big physical role. So if you're fairly relaxed in a mental state, you can push a bigger physical output. But mentally, if you're taxed, your physical output's gonna slide back quite a lot.
100%, I agree.
I think just going through that type of stuff that's heavy emotional trauma, firstly. And then secondly, I think, coming back here and being able to recoup what you could physically, I don't think those performances were anything ideal.
Definitely not. I think.
But they were good enough to get you through.
Yes, I think overtraining is so much a mental state, because essentially your mind telling your body, I can't cope with what's going on at the moment.
So I've got an issue with overtraining.
Yes.
I like to call it under-resting.
That's a very good point.
So whenever I hear people tell me that they've overtrained, I feel it's more that you're under-rested. And rest is quantifiable. So we can be under-rested, yeah, sure. But what is rest? Is rest like sleeping in your bed? If your mind is still super active, if you're very, emotionally over-engaged, if you've got a lot of anguish going on in your life, does that fall into the picture? So I think, a lot of the time I think the mindset of I'm overtraining is like, perhaps I'm just not relaxing enough. Like maybe
I'm not taking enough downtime.
I'm not just structuring my time well enough to relax and chill and get my thought process right and align my lifestyle so that I can put myself in a position where I can train at an optimal level and also be able to relax and sleep and spend time with people that are important to me. And I think sometimes it's quite important for athletes that maybe go overseas, is that you often move away from your primary support structure, which is maybe your family and your friends. And you see a lot of athletes go overseas and you expect big performances and you're in a very, very ideal environment where you can push big load. But have you got the support of your family and your friends, partners?
That's something I definitely didn't have. No, I can really testify the support system I have here now is led to my success, because if you have people backing you and helping you and contributing to your recovery, like your sponsors giving you the optimal tools to recover properly, or your family being there at a race supporting you, it's like you don't want to disappoint them. Some people see expectations as a negative thing. I differ. I think I see it as a positive thing. If there's expectation, I'm gonna want to impress you. I want to make you proud. So I think having people there to watch you makes a big difference.
Look, I think getting back to failure, I think failure is important, and we don't always want to talk about failure, because you look at really famous people and big achievers, they've had a silver spoon the whole way. Everything's been a golden line, nothing's ever gone wrong. And it's quite difficult for somebody who sits in a position where they want to do really, really well, but they think, well, I failed, I didn't do this right, I didn't do that right. But I see my hero or my star and everything has just gone perfectly for them. And I think the story that doesn't often get told is the amount of failure that has to happen. I've got more failures than I'd like to share. The dark corners of sitting and
100%.
Crying my eyes out and wondering when my career was over. But tell me about your biggest failure. When did you sit and cry with your head in your hands, sobbing, thinking that?
Too many times. I must say I think I've had more failure than success, and in my opinion that is what led to the success. Failure is not a bad thing, and I think a lot of people have a misperception about the failures athletes go through, because all they see, like you say, is the silver lining on Facebook and Instagram, and it's not the real picture. Often people don't like to display their failures because they feel ashamed of it. I try to be real and try to be honest, because we all go through failures. It's part of life. It's as soon as you accept the failures and that it's part of the journey, you will be more successful. Because if you end up stressing about all the obstacles and the problems and break yourself about every single bad race or every single thing that went wrong, you're never going to be able to put it behind you and move on to the next thing.
No, I think it's vital, but it's tough vital. And as a young athlete, failure is seen as failure. It's crushing, but failure is super important. Failure is a massive, it's a feather in your cap. If you can fail, you can learn. Once you've failed, you can learn. When you learn, you can advance. When you advance, you can get better. If you're always going to be good and everything's been a silver spoon and a gold line, all of a sudden somebody comes along who's better than you, and then what? You've never failed. You've never learned resilience. You've never learned how to punch out of a corner. I think it's vital. To learn to have your back against the wall, have the world against you, getting crushed, and working out how to get out, punch your way out, escape your way out of whatever failure it is. And it could be physical failure, emotional failure, but whether it's life perspective or a sports perspective, it's huge. And any athlete you speak to, if you want to increase your success, you effectively have to double your rate of failure. You've got to put it out there and put it out there hard. And when people mock you, or scowl at you, I mean, it's cool. You just take it in your stride, because ultimately, I mean, if you can just digest that and move on, it's more than they've ever done. Because your critics will be sitting on the couch doing nothing. Generally, the biggest critic in life or in sport, I mean, they'll be sitting. You have to ask them, what did you do today? Where did you fail? Where did you succeed? No, that's not. Where did you fail? How did you fail? How hard is your failure? How was rock bottom?
Yes, how does rock bottom feel?
And how does rock bottom feel?
It feels like you don't want to get up anymore and you don't want to get out there to work, but that's exactly where you need to get to discover really what's your why. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? And if you can establish that, you can get yourself back to the top. Because if you find out why you want to do something and you have that ability to accept what happened and that you failed and make a plan, how are you going to rise above it, then you will succeed. Because if you think about it, if other of your competitors get this perception that you don't really matter, you failed, you lost, they're going to win you next time, they're not going to be looking out for you. You're going to surprise them. You got to work hard and surprise them. Sometimes it's good to be the underdog, to show up at the race, not be the favorite to win, and then surprise everybody. It's not always good to have that pressure to be number one to win. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can also be detrimental to your success, because you can put so much pressure on yourself to win that you essentially you lose.
Well, I mean, I think it basically boils down to a mental game. So, I mean, the opinion I've always taken on an athletic approach and a life approach is that it's a very cliche to say, oh, I'm going to do my best, because doing your best is like, you know, it's a leather medal, it's a pat on the back.
Yes.
But if your best is very, very focused, laser beam focused, and it's the best it can possibly be, and you hone in and you are completely single-minded on your best can be the best that best can ever be, and you execute your best on the day, I don't know how many people can actually match that. I mean, yeah, sure, you're always going to be dealing with a lot of top-end athletes, but I think the removal of the distraction to execute the best, absolute best. So focusing on honing in on your personal best, being able to do absolutely everything that is within your ability to do, pushing through every single personal boundary that you can create. I think it's vitally important that you don't allow distraction to pull you away from what your personal execution is of your absolute best. So if you define your personal best as being an optimal personal best, which is of an absolute gold medal standard, I think there'll be very, very few people that can touch you. And I've discussed this with quite a few people over the years about, you know, you can hone in your best, and the argument is, well, yeah, everyone can hone in on their best, but blah, blah, blah. But if the definition of best is better than somebody else's definition of best, then why the distraction? If you hone in on perfection, on winning, and if winning is absolutely paramount and optimal, and if best is done from training to sleeping to nutrition to lifestyle management to everything, and it's cut down with a laser beam, I think there can be very, very few people that can match that. A lot of people get distracted somewhere along the way, and even if it's a 1% distraction, a 0.5% distraction, that's all you need. I mean, we talk small margins, Olympic Games, elite sport, you know, things get won by 1/10 of a second.
Exactly.
But if the 1/10 of the second boils down to everything being aligned in a laser beam gold medals focus, you know, you don't need to worry effectively about what's going on around you. If you just optimize your own inherent approach to being a gold medal athlete, how much thought do you actually have to give to anything?